Ride report for the 1975 Can-Am 175. This is a bike that we picked up after the race in Spain last year. Found this 175 and bought it from Ray Hale in Idaho. And this is kind of a survivor. It's mostly original, but it's got some mods to it now. We're preparing it to race here in a couple weeks over at the China Hat ISDE, and kind of done a shakedown test. But importantly for racing, for preparing this, we put some Preston Petty fenders on it, Preston Petty headlight, tail light, brake light, but I've simplified the wiring because these things are street legal. They have turn signals and a speedometer, ignition switch. It sits up here, the big key, and the big bundle of wires that come in here is just simply unnecessary for a dirt bike. So I've stripped all that off. I've got an ignition switch here that's on and off, and that actually is a kind of a problem because I'm so used to riding dirt bikes that I just push the button to kill the bike. Several times today I did that, shut the engine off, and I forgot. Went to kick it, it's like, oh. So fortunately it was more than a couple of kicks, but I probably will change that out before race day, because race day, my brain doesn't work as well. I don't want to be at a checkpoint or special test, shut the dumb thing off, and then go, oh, dude. So I'll probably put a kill switch on there. Light switch, that's great for once I go through tech inspection. I'm just going to shut the lights off, because if they want to inspect it later, I'll turn them back on. But today, I'm pretty sure I blew a voltage regulator, which is not too surprising for an almost 50-year-old motorcycle, but I will address that. Over here on this side where the battery was, I have put the whole Can-Am toolkit under the side cover, which I think is kind of cool, but I'm going to have to carry a common screwdriver to get that off to access my tools, but it's cool. The no lean shocks worked fantastic. I had them on my 250 in Spain and they worked well, but I still had the bonded rubber bushings in the swing arm. We took them out of this and we went with needle bearings, and it works way better with needle, just by replacing the bonded rubber bushings in the swing arm pivot with needle bearings. Fantastic. One of the other things that I had noticed in Spain was the lack of rear brake power. The cable brake kind of takes a little bit of the feel out of your braking, so I went with the 1973 crossover linkage brake pedal, and with a brake rod it gives it a much more positive feel to the rear brake. The rear brake has plenty of power. Thought about swapping the front wheel for a 1981 YZ125 wheel, but frankly this front brake is probably the best single leading shoe brake I have ever felt. I'm not touching it. Involved with that swap was the 1973 bike had a completely different brake backing plate. So we took a Kawasaki brake stay and just modified it to stick there to the swing arm. This is a Kawasaki brake rod. Haven't figured out how to make the kickstand work yet, but that's what we will be working on next. Probably the best mod we've done so far outside of the suspension is the clutch. So Oscar Pomeroy contacted me and says, hey, I can help you. And says, have you done the 3-ball clutch mod? I'm like, nope, never heard of it. My 250 was bone stock, but for the suspension last year. So he says, well, you should buy this. So I went to vintageroost.com. I bought their 3-ball clutch kit. Requires machining. I took the pristine factory clutch cover off and bought a different clutch cover, have it machined, and dropped that 3-ball clutch in. It required some finesse and some, finagling to make it all line up and go right, but we did that, and it is a 1-finger clutch pull. It's amazing. I can't believe how light this clutch is. and it works well. Part of that clutch mod, Oscar told me to change my clutch out for the motocross clutch because there's 7 discs instead of 5, which we had to do 6 1mm plates instead of the 1.25mm plates in the enduro clutch, and then I had to have a motocross hub. But all of that, and it works good. I abused the clutch all day. I had the clutch halfway in half the day climbing all the hills at Starker where we rode. The tires. So these are the same tires I ran in Spain. These are the neatest FIM tire. It's a Terra Force Super Soft. You can buy them in America, but they don't have the FIM stamp on them, but it is the same tire. I ran the same tire in the front, and they're totally adequate. I'm not sure I'm ready to proclaim them as good as a golden tire, but they are quite adequate, if nothing else. These grips, these are from Preston Petty, and they are phenomenal. They look a little bit odd, but if you look at them from the side, they have a little hex pattern to them, and this raised rib kind of sits in the hole of your palm, and your fingers go around that hex. It's really easy to hold on to them, and they're very soft. I'll be seeing how long they last because we're going to put some miles on them. But I did rip the end out when I installed it. Be careful. I maybe was a little bit too aggressive, but the old trick from the 70s of cloth electrical tape, and then they used to use gasoline, but I used black spray paint. I spray painted the electrical tape, and I shot some spray paint down inside the grip, stick it on there, let it dry. You don't need any kind of safety wire, they stay. I did not do the tape on the throttle side, just spray paint. It's plastic to plastic, it stinks. It stays way better. This is not really a vintage part, but these Molecule flag style handguards are outstanding. A 70-75 aluminum bar that hooks to your handlebar. They do not move. You can fall down, they stay, they don't break. They give you a nice report when you hit a tree without knocking you off a line like a wraparound handguard. And they're kind of, even though they don't look vintage, they kind of are in the spirit of, we didn't run Barkbusters back in those days, but I'm going to. If they allow it, I'm going to run them because I like protecting my hand from flying things. What else did we do? This is the seat and tank off of my 250 because we're making a tank really nice to go to Italy this year. Oh, that clutch mod. It required, so we used a Honda CR250 clutch cable and a Pro Taper quick adjust clutch perch and lever, and it works phenomenal. The problem that we ran into, you'll notice an orange tie wrap here. I used a rag and some tape to try to keep it from spewing transmission fluid out while I was riding. It leaked a whole bunch of oil out, so we're gonna have to find a way to seal that junction up, but that's a minor problem. We will sort that out. Another thing we ran into was using a 90-degree throttle. I'm still running the oil injection. I ran actually 70-to-1 premix today plus the oil injection, and it was definitely getting plenty of lube because there was plenty of blue smoke coming out the exhaust. It just diminished later. This is my first ride on it, so whoever rode this before probably rode around at low RPM all the time because it was blowing lots and lots of smoke for the first hour I rode it. So it's not blowing as much smoke now, but it's full of good injector oil and 70-to-1 in the tank. But when I had to swap over from the Mikuni. This bike had a Mikuni carburetor on it, and FIM requires it to be like it came. So I had to put a Bing on it, and my 250 in Spain had the factory throttle. we had a month to get that bike prepared and ship it to Spain, so didn't get to do some things. I'm glad it didn't get hit by a tree branch or something, because this stupid throttle cable comes way up or way down, however you route it. And this 90 degree is just an old Magura 314 Duo plastic housing. I'm using the split throttle. I got it also from Vintage Roost, and they sell one specifically for this throttle housing. For having a dual cable that pulls the injector, it's a very light pull, surprisingly so. Very accurate, very easy to set up, and no complaints. The only other thing I ran into today is I think I may have got some dirt or something in my carburetor, because occasionally I would get some part throttle burbles. I just hold it wide open and it'd clean out and rev to the moon and run great. And then it would run fine for a while until it wouldn't. So I think I got a piece of dirt in it. Maybe something else is going on, I hope not. But we'll pull that carb back off. We're gonna pull it back down anyway before we go race it at China Hat. But overall, I'm really happy with this chassis. I was very happy with the 250 chassis. Probably even more happy with this chassis. Of course, it's a 175, so less power. It feels lighter. It changes direction like nobody's business. And you know, it's surprisingly good suspension for only having 4 inches in the rear and 7 in the front. It's surprisingly good. Run around with all my friends today on their modern bikes, and I was definitely at the front of the pack. I wouldn't say I was the fastest all day, but it was definitely not the slowest. And it's really fun to run into groups of guys on their modern bikes on the trail. Like, what? Look at this, what is this? It's really, really fun to have those kind of reactions. And this bike did everything today that I asked it to do. There was a difficult obstacle that I didn't clear, but it was because I was in too high a gear, and the darn thing had the dirt and jet or burbled or something just at the wrong time. But after clearing it out, I rode right over it. Other than that, I might as well have been on my TN. Maybe not speed-wise, but I made everything. So I think it's a positive review. I think it's a great bike. I think 175 is a good size. It makes plenty of power. And I'm looking forward to more updates to get this thing perfected.